York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
And a happy Monday morning to you. I'm Gary Sutton, and welcome to the Gary Sutton Show here on WOYK. Brought to you by Barley Snyder Law Firm. You can find them at barley.com. Innovative legal solutions for your business. They are a law firm for today's business world. Mark McKenzie back in the saddle again this morning as we are back from our little bit of a longer weekend with the July 4th holiday, but hope that you had a great holiday and looking forward to bringing you a great week of broadcasting this week. The question of the day today, I saw a story this morning in the York newspaper, York Daily Record, about the York Fair considering whether to move back to September or stay where they are in July. And the question, would you like to keep the York Fair where it is in July or move it back to the first week in September? Kind of a big question for our area. I don't know how you feel about that, but you can answer that by going to the Gary Sutton Show on Facebook or by texting your answer this morning to us at 717, or check that again, 833-478-4729. That's 833-478-4729. What do you think about that? Moving it back to where it originally was in the first week in September or keeping it where it is now right here in July? So we got that going for you today. You can also check our podcast out on Just a Voice on Main Street, where I do one-on-ones with certain people that are, doing things in the community. You can also go to WOYK on YouTube every day later on to replay our show. If there are parts you wanted to replay or whatever, that's there. Also, you can go to 989WOYK.com when you're outside the area or hit our new app up for WOYK. By the way, this morning, if you normally listen on FM, it may be down this morning. I think there's a part that was missing. They had a little problem with that over the weekend. That's going to be done by Tuesday. But
did the hamster die?
And I don't know. No, but anyway, you can listen to us on WOYK, and of course that's 1350 AM. So just a couple of days of doing that. All right, today is National Day of Rock and Roll. Rock and roll. And it's 53 days till Labor Day weekend. So that is up there this morning. Good morning, Mark. And I know we have a lot of other days you're looking at today as well.
Yeah, I am looking at them, and I'm very disappointed in my prep work from last week because I missed it by like a week. So I don't know why that happened. It says here that it is National Macaroni Day.
Oh, okay. I was shocked.
Apparently.
When you said that, apparently
you
shocked
okay?
me. Yeah, I think so. I may have just killed my computer, but yeah.
Yeah, National Macaroni Day. I like macaroni.
I like macaroni, too. I was down at a friend of mine, Rich Weeder's house the other night, who makes the best macaroni that has ever been made.
What do you mean, like pasta?
I'm talking about macaroni and cheese. I'm talking about bubbling when it comes out. I'm talking about 3 different kinds of cheeses in there. I'm talking about layers and layers of goodness.
Oh, my.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. And I mean, I would. Now, again, I'm sitting here telling you that, and the only thing you can go by is my word that it's the best I've ever had. But, it's really good.
I'm trying to think of the best macaroni. I would say if I had to pick one, it would be my mother's family's, what do we call them? Now I can't even remember. That's how long it's been since cavatis. The handmade cavatis. And
what are cavatis?
It's a cavatelli.
I'm so lost.
Oh, a cavatelli is if you look at it, the store-bought kind, the manufactured kind, it's kind of rolled in on itself.
Okay.
And they're kind of thin like that, and then they have a little curve into the center from the outside left and right curve on the inside. Anyway,
Gotcha.
Usually you can make it with a, with a fork if you're making it by hand, and that's how the family does it.
Gotcha.
But it wasn't as tight as that. It was a little bit more round and fluffy and almost like a gnocchi, almost.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember my mother and my grandmother making these in the kitchen, and what they would have to do is let it sit out for a minute before they cooked it, and they would have these pans, these flat pans filled with cut up cavati,
Gotcha.
just kind of dry. And it was wonderful.
Sounds good.
Good memory. My mom still makes them.
Macaroni and cheese is comfort food, I think.
Yeah. I mean, but you can. I guess maybe the store bought kind just kind of ruined it for me.
Yeah, I just
Kraft macaroni and cheese. When was the last time you had that?
I don't because that's not
You
to me,
don't?
that's not what I want. I don't eat
Yeah,
that.
I get that.
No, this guy makes this, and we go to dinner or have dinner with him every now and then, and he's a great friend. And he just, I tell you what, he makes this stuff, and it's like you can see the care that goes into it. It's just amazing.
The key is getting the cheese to kind of melt properly, and usually you have to make a bechamel, which
well, you need a little crust on the top too, from where I'm sitting.
well, that's the heat.
I like that. That's it. Yeah.
In order to get the cheese to kind of fully incorporate, you need a basis for the cheese to do that. Otherwise, it just kind of melts and sits there.
We also had our first corn on the cob of the season. He put
Really?
that, He put that and steamed it in water with milk in, which I had not heard of before. And I
Yes.
guess people do
A little
that,
bit.
which is something I've been unaware of. And he did it in that. I'll tell you what, was that ever delicious? So
Did you like that?
I liked it that way. He brought it out. It had I don't know, had a little extra flavor to it somehow. I don't know, but there you go.
Yes, I've seen that. I've seen it done. I can't say that I remember discerning a difference, but certainly was something different. The other big food holiday today, and I have no idea why. I'm going to search it because it's got my interest up. And it was definitely, I mean, it is today. It is World Chocolate Day.
Wow.
Yes.
That is kind of odd that it would be today.
Out of all the days of the year, why is July 7th Chocolate Day?
I don't know. Do they have a reason for that?
They do. Some suggest that is the anniversary of the introduction of chocolate to Europe in the year, what would you think?
Oh, my. Probably like I'm going to say let's see, when we kept the 1600s.
But close. You're very close. 1550.
Okay.
And the observance of World Chocolate Day dates back to 2009. It's not to be confused with the International Chocolate Day.
Yeah, who would ever want to get in the way of that?
Yeah, don't do that.
Right.
So,
That's interesting.
chocolate. Well, to me, you can never have too many days celebrating chocolate.
No, you cannot, and that's just the way it is. So there you go.
Well, I have a special way for you and I to celebrate it.
And that is what? Oh, did you bring something?
I did.
Oh my!
Here,
He's going into the famous bag.
I totally forgot about it till I started talking.
Oh, wait a minute! This is from. Did you work at the chocolate place this weekend?
This is Sanders. I don't see any salt on it. It's dark chocolate, caramel, with sea salt outside, but I must have got the two without.
Keep going. You haven't hit a bad note yet. So
I will bring those.
So Mark has that
in a minute. It is also Global Forgiveness Day. I wonder what Kevin might have.
That'll
to say
fit
about
in
that.
well for Kevin, and obviously we're also going to be talking this morning about the floods in Texas this weekend, and up to 82 people now that have been found dead as a result of that. And we'll have some of the stories about that this morning. Kevin will certainly be commenting on that. Kevin Smith of Kindness Worldwide will join us this morning. And a lot of kindness is going to be asked of people down there during the weekend around the country, as well as people digest what's going on there.
It is also, there's two more.
Yep.
One is National Dive Bar Day.
National Dive Bar Day, okay.
Yeah, you have a favorite dive bar?
I don't. I'm not much of a bar person
Me neither,
anymore.
are you? No. And it's Tell the Truth Day.
Oh, that's every day. It should be every day.
The operative word there is should.
Well, and, certain situations, maybe you could soften that a little bit. Honey, how's that dress look on me? I know. Great, honey. I know. I'm very truthful. My wife is a very truthful person. And, so there are ways you can do it without being awful. You don't have to just stuff it down someone's throat and, I don't know.
Yes.
I'm not going to get into that any further. I'm just saying. Kevin Smith with us this morning at 6:35 in Kindness Worldwide. He'll be stopping by, and we'll be talking about the floods over the weekend. Congressman Scott Perry will be joining us today at 7:05. Obviously, his vote on the big, beautiful bill, which passed over the weekend, actually passed on July 4th. Now the big, beautiful law. We'll see what is next for that from his vantage point. We'll also be checking in then at 7:35 this morning with Mark Hendrickson at a different time on the NBA and big trade there over the weekend that was just huge, and we'll ask him about that and ask him about permanency and loyalty in pro sports. And then at 8:05, Grover Norquist joins us. Wanted to get his take. He's the president of Americans for Tax Reform. Wanted to get his take on the big, beautiful bill, now law, and thoughts about its passage. And again, where do we go from here? And then Major Joe Decree, veteran of Kosovo, Afghanistan, and Iraq. We'll take a look at the world through the eyes of a vet. I understand the president meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu coming up this week. And what will that have for our country in the long run? So all of that ahead here on the Gary Sutton Show this morning on WOYK. We'll take a break, and we'll come back with more news that you're talking about right here on the main street of York. It's the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
Here's Higgins driving one to deep left field. Taka's back, looks, it sails out of here. Ryan Higgins with a 2-run home run to left. And Higgins unloads on his 6th of the year. Revs not done yet. It's 12-8.
Unfortunately,
They were. Yeah.
well, they did score another run, but
Well, they did, but it was not enough in this game. As the Revs got beat 16-9, it was just a slugfest. And a lot of runs scored lately. The Revs scoring 13-13, and I guess they lost on Saturday. They scored 1 on Saturday and then 9 yesterday. So lost 2 out of 3 over the weekend again to Staten Island, who seems to have their number no matter what. Staten Island's been fleeced to a lot of players this year, but still managing to do a pretty good job on beating the Revs, which is kind of where they're at. Although the Revs beat them 2 out of 3 last weekend, and so 16-9 yesterday. Looking at what happened over the weekend, obviously the flood in Texas, the flash flood. 82 people now have been found dead as a result of that flood in Texas. What's amazing about this flood, they got more water in the space of a few hours than they get in 3 months in Texas. I saw it this morning, and it just about astounded me. I saw pictures of the flood. It was a flash flood, went through a camp that had been operated by a family for a number of years. And, of course, now 82 people have been found dead in this. I was reading a story about a heroism that went on in this camp. There was a guy who saved his family by... They were in a trailer. He had just gotten home from work and apparently, fell asleep and woke up to the sound of this torrent going through. And his name is Julian Ryan. And his final words to his mother as the floodwaters quickly engulfed their trailer home were simply, "I love you." He made a split-second decision to thrust his arm through a window in the trailer to help his fiancée, 2 young kids, and a woman, and his mom, escape the catastrophic flood tearing through Kerr County in Texas. The last-ditch effort that he made. Talk about an act of bravery and giving your life for somebody else. Ultimately cost his life. The glass had cut an artery in his arm when he punched through it. And Ryan's mother held him as he bled and took his last breath. His sister Connie Salas told CNN, "He went out a hero," Salas said, in the pitch-black, storm-lashed hours before dawn. Surging floodwaters unexpectedly ravaged the region, including a campsite filled with sleeping children. 4 months worth of rain fell in just hours. 4 months worth of rain.
Did you see any of the coverage of why that was? It was kind of interesting. There was a high-pressure system that was kind of sitting just below this region, and it was kind of blocking everything.
Right.
And then there was this low that kind of popped up right just north of it, and it basically kind of squeezed the air, the moisture from the high, from the Gulf. It was kicking in all this moisture, and the low created this storm front, and it just basically wrung the water, and there was a lot of it, obviously, out of it right into that one area. And because the high wasn't moving, the low just kind of kept using, I'm going to use terms that are, kind of slammed into it or kept hitting it, bumping into it, kept feeding these storms. And there was kind of like a train effect where it just kept running over the same spot. And that's where all that water. Did you see any of the video of the people?
I did,
holding on. And I mean, some of the, it's just hard to believe that they could, stand there and wait to be rescued. It was, and some of them, of course, didn't make it. So.
No. The Guadalupe River, apparently, which runs through there, rose over 20 feet. They say 26 feet, sweeping homes and cars and campers and cabins downstream. And they say when the sunrise came up and the storm softened, the full weight of the disaster came into view, as you suggested there, Mark. And hundreds were missing. Of course, 82 dead as of this morning, including over 24 girls at a summer camp. It was a Christian summer camp that had been going on for a long time. And one family basically owned it, and the director of the camp was killed. And as minutes stretched into hours, hope gave way to grief. But this guy, Julian Ryan, was a 27-year-old dishwasher, and he had finished working at a local restaurant before returning to his Ingram, Texas home, the New York Times reported. He was finally asleep when surging floodwaters crashed through their trailer home. In a matter of seconds, their front door gave way, slammed open by the power of the river. Ryan and his fiancée, with water rising to their chests, placed their 13-month-old and 6-year-old on mattresses, which were floating to keep them above the rising flood. But the water kept rising. The bedroom door, sealed tight by the pressure on the other side, wouldn't budge. And so in those terrifying moments, Ryan shattered a window in a final attempt to get the family out. The glass tore into the arm, leaving him critically injured. His fiancée, Christina, said she added the glass almost cut his arm off. After multiple calls to 911 went unanswered, Ryan looked at them, she said, and told them, "I'm sorry, I'm not going to make it. I love you all." His sister, who lived just steps away from him and also lost her home, told CNN there was no warning, no time to act. A flash flood emergency warning was issued by Kerr County at 4:03 a.m., about an hour before the raging Guadalupe River burst its banks. The late night warnings limited who could see them and how quickly they could move to higher ground. "We had no time to physically save ourselves," Salas said. "Our last words were, 'I'm scared,'" she said, and he says, "Me too." The family obviously overwhelmed with grief and struggling to cope, Salas said, especially their mother, who was there for Ryan's final moments and saw him take his last breath. So that's probably one of many stories we'll hear in coming days, Mark, of heroism. But getting the two daughters out of there, and they were rescued. They were on top of a mattress that was floating along in the river, and eventually were rescued.
Improvise. You got to improvise.
Yeah.
So did you try the chocolate?
I did not yet. I did not get a chance to yet.
You want to take a bite now?
No, I'll wait a minute.
You don't want to?
Because I want to savor it. I want to savor it. Yeah, I want to have just a moment or two to kind of.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
I bought those. I've had those before. I think they're called Sanders. It's a small batch chocolate caramel. And Kevin, I forgot you were going to be here. I would have brought you one too. As a matter of fact, you know what? You can have mine. There you go.
How about that, huh? How about that?
But here's the thing. What I was looking for, believe it or not, was everybody knows Russell Stover, right?
Right.
Candies and, the boxes of candy. But they've done something kind of, I thought it was ingenious in a way. They have produced this bag of candy, and they're individuals. So you're not just buying, you're not going to open the box and eat like half of it. They're individually wrapped, and they're different kinds of caramel. So there's the caramel with the crispy stuff. Mm-hmm. There's the dark caramel. There's the just regular caramel. So we bought a bag of that and kind of put it in the pantry. So every once in a while, when you're like in the mood for something sweet, you just grab one of those,
right?
And it kind of satisfies you. So, but they were out of them, so I had to buy that.
By the way, a brand new political party is now going to be formed. It is called the America Party. Obviously, the dispute between President Trump and Elon Musk has been fairly public lately. And when the Big Beautiful Bill became the Big Beautiful Law on July 4th, the next day, Elon Musk came out on X, his X platform, formerly Twitter, and said in a post, "Today, the American Party is formed to give you back your freedom." So we're going to see what's made out of that. He said, "By a factor of 2-1, you want a new political party, and you shall have it," he wrote. The announcement came from Musk after Trump signed his self-styled Big Beautiful Bill. And Musk, who has been open about his disdain for this bill, has started this new party. Too early to tell what that's going to be like, but it is out there and something else to be considered. When we come back, Kevin Smith, who is the head of Kindness Worldwide, who started the whole kindness movement there, is going to join us. We'll talk about the floods. We'll talk about maybe a little bit about the Big Beautiful Bill and some other things, too, when Kevin joins us here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. But first, we take a break at the bottom of the hour for news. WOYK news time is 6:30. Welcome back to Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. What is that?
Coming from a rainy Thursday on
This isn't going to sound familiar to you?
Not yet.
But I heard you talking softly.
We're going to 1993 for
Okay.
bumper music today.
Lights, the TV,
They don't look familiar?
radio.
No?
No.
This is Duran Duran.
Oh, Duran Duran.
Yes, they had an initial splash, couple of big albums.
Yeah, I kind of remember remember it a little bit. But
And then they went away a little bit, and then this was their... It wasn't a comeback, but...
yeah, this is another one of those singers that sounded like the guy was just barely getting his breath out of his mouth as he sang. Kind of like a male Dusty Springfield. You know, it just...
It's not on your like list.
No, it didn't make it to that.
You know, I think
As so many others have fallen by the wayside.
Well,
with that,
you
too.
know, and I'm noticing that.
Yeah.
So I'm
There's
just...
although you play a lot of really good stuff. I mean,
Do
I would
I?
say the majority of the time is
I don't
really,
know.
really good. No, I really mean that. I like almost all the stuff you play, but then every now and then there's one like this that's like, it's not you. It's not you.
It's not you.
You know how I
it's
used
me.
to say that to the girl, the former girlfriend? It's not you, it's me. And
Yes.
when exactly the opposite was meant. But not in this case. Not in this case. No, not at all. So
Sure.
with that, I hope you'll forgive me. It is Global Forgiveness Day. And with that, we turn to Kevin Smith this morning, who is the guy who started the whole Kindness Worldwide movement with the epicenter right here in New York. And we're going to be talking about that and what you can do to be part of that every single day, but also a special time here at the stadium coming up later on. Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing great, Gary, and yourself?
Well, we're doing really well. Great to have you in this morning. How are you doing?
Great. I just got back from 3 days of rest and relaxation in Smith Mountain Lake, Virginia. No relation, by the way.
No.
Nothing but tranquil lake and waters and clear skies. And I tuned out the news, all except till the drive home. And it
Yeah.
was just nice to get away and leave all the world's issues behind for a few days.
I would have been really impressed if it had said, Kevin has his own mountain and his own lake. I mean, Mark and I would have been sitting here going, although I've been down to Smith Mountain Lake, which is a wonderful, wonderful area.
Beautiful
down in Virginia.
area for sure.
It really is. My brother used to own a place down there, and it was a nice place to go to. But obviously, this weekend, our hearts and our minds and our thoughts are with the 82 people who have died, at least to this point, and probably more to come. Unfortunately, in that flash flood in Texas. And you look at that and you hear about the story of heroism of this one young man. I'm sure we'll hear about more of those in coming days. Somewhere in the Bible it talks about no greater gift can you give someone than to die for someone else. And I'm paraphrasing very, very quickly. But this young man, getting his two young ones off onto a mattress and then saving the rest of his family by plunging his arm through a window, cutting an artery, dying right there, and getting those two out into safety. I mean, incredible stories of bravery and incredible stories of human nature and the fact that we do have a lot of goodness in us and in moments like that. Your thoughts this morning on that, Kevin?
Well, what you just described is a classic example of selfless service and selfless sacrifice, literally to lose your own life for those that you love and those you care about. And, I was not aware of the flooding. Again, I tuned out the news for a few days, and it was the drive home. My wife turned on the news and the radio and heard about it. And, it's just tragic. I mean, there really are no words when you experience the wrath of Mother Nature the way they did, and totally unexpected, like a 100-year flood, so to speak. And the loss of life, it just breaks your heart. But, it shouldn't take a tragedy to bring out the best of people. I mean, you often hear the stories of heroism. You often hear about a community coming together. You hear about even a country, praying for others and really going above and beyond, going the extra mile, so to speak, to help those in need who are just going through a terrible, tragic time. But also reminds us of just the fragility of life itself. I mean, no one saw this coming.
Right.
And just out of the blue, then there's such a tragic loss of life. And so I think hopefully it reminds us to just try not to dwell on some of the small things that we often obsess about every day, because at the end of the day, it really is all small stuff. And just how life is such a gift and a blessing, we should never be taking it for granted. But always just try to be the best we can for others, be where they're at in their time of need, and sometimes put ourselves in their shoes. And I tell you what, those folks in Texas, I can't even imagine what it's like to be in their shoes right now.
You know, when you think about kindness, and you started this movement of kindness worldwide, when you think about kindness, kindness is kind of like the preemptive, proactive strike for moments like this, where you think about the things that you do for people before it gets to a point where you have to be reactive. And of course, all of us are reactive right now in terms of how we feel about this, and praying for people and hoping that they find more people who are alive and all that. I read one story where a woman was traveled 20 miles downstream and they found her alive hanging onto a tree. So there are stories of hope here yet, and they said that they're still looking for survivors of this as well. But when you think about kindness as a proactive kind of thing, that really kind of comes to mind a little bit this morning too. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, kindness is a choice that we each can make and choose to make. And when I think about from a macro standpoint, and you look around the world at all the challenges and the issues that the world has, whether it be war or whether it be political discourse or rioting and all these things that happen. At the core, it really is a lack of kindness. I mean, the solutions seem very challenging. They seem complex, but they're really that simple. And if we just, it sounds idealistic, but it really does begin with ourselves, and just try to embrace the gift of each day and try to be the best versions of ourselves we can be in each day, in each moment. And if we did that, which we can choose, then the world around us is instantly better. You can't fail being kind. But I see a lot of failures, quote unquote, throughout the world. And I would argue it gets into a lack of leadership, a lack of kindness at its core. And so I think we just often need to take a step back and remind everyone that the solutions really are that simple. And let's look in the mirror and hold ourselves accountable, hold others accountable, just to lead with kindness instead of some of the, I would argue, lack of leadership we're seeing throughout the world at times.
Kevin, you started this, 3 years ago on Good Friday, when someone returned your wallet after leaving it at a grocery store. And it was that one simple act that kind of got you trying to move forward. How have you changed now since that happened? When you look at situations where kindness comes into play, how have you changed in your experience now as you go forward?
Well, I was a good person before Good Friday morning 2023, right. So it's been a little bit over 2 years, actually. But I'm a much better person today because of this one act of kindness. And I used to dwell over what I couldn't control. In fact, my friend Tony Fry, who was at his place in Smith Mountain Lake, I remember a conversation we had a number of years ago, and I'd be very frustrated. I would vent about what's going on in the world, what I perceived as a failure of leadership. And he looked me in the eye and he said, "Kevin, I hear you." But he said, "What are you going to do about it?" And at the time, I was dumbfounded. Like, well, what can I do about it? I can't do anything about anything.
Right.
And this act of kindness, it actually changed my paradigm of the world. Instead of dwelling on what I can't control, I started to focus on my circle of influence, things I can control, try to be a better person. I can control that. And just innocently enough, organically enough, this one act of kindness, it took on life of its own and actually opened up pathways to actually make a difference, or at least try. And I am seeing the impact now. I mean, it all started with this young woman, one act of kindness, and the ripple effects of that act of kindness have been so profound, literally now being felt throughout the world. But it all began with a choice that she made to return my wallet, and then a choice I made just to want to thank her in a more meaningful way, and this opened up pathways I never could have imagined.
Do you think that people are generally kind by nature or not? I mean, I know when you get into religion and so forth, they'll say, well, we're sin-filled and all that kind of stuff. But from the standpoint of being kind, and I look at this flood situation this weekend, and I look at what this young man gave for his family, and people can say, well, that's beyond kindness, and they might be very right. But would you say generally people are more inclined to be kind to one another than they are to be something else?
I do feel that's the case. And sometimes when in a time of tragedy, your instincts kick in. You don't even think about it. You just do what you've got to do. And I think that's a classic example. But I think sometimes people, circumstances, external influences, surroundings, upbringing, whatever it may be, I think can shape people into something that they're not naturally, born to be. I think people are generally born good. But external circumstance, whatever it may be, kind of conditions people to maybe take on a jaded view of the world or maybe resort to behaviors that are arguably not kind. But I do think that in rare instances, I think you can recondition people back to being kind, even if their natural impulse is to be unkind.
Right.
I think you can bring more kindness into their world and hopefully open up a whole new world to them and make them realize, look, when you choose to be kind and positive things, law of attraction, good things happen to good people. And when you're good to others, there is a boomerang effect. It's just call it karma, call it what you will. But again, you can't fail being kind. Only good things happen when you choose kindness. Look, we're coming off Independence Day weekend.
Right.
Freedom is just a wonderful gift we're blessed to have. And we really have the ability to do anything that we want to be in this country with the freedoms we enjoy. But in a world you can be anything, just choose to be kind. Again, it really is that simple. But for many, unfortunately, it's that hard.
You have a big event that is going to be coming up here at the stadium. And I wanted you to talk about that a little bit this morning in terms of kindness, in terms of maybe symbolic and yet at the same time real kindness coming together. Talk a little bit about the event coming up here at the stadium.
Yeah, well, ironically, today there's press releases going out, the formal launch of Kindness Worldwide's Sports Scenes Initiative. Sports as a way of bringing people and communities together, consistent with our vision of a culture of kindness in communities throughout the world. So August 7th here at Wellspan Park, it's Pack the Park for Kindness. Pre-game festivities begin at 6 p.m. We are going to infuse kindness throughout the ballpark in a fan experience. It's going to be the first of its kind, so to speak, kindness-themed professional sports event. And so we are literally trying to get the word out in the community that, we know how York County, the character of this community, we know the heart and soul of this community. I'm convinced that we can inspire this community to show up literally for kindness and pack the park. And the film crew for the documentary For Such a Time as This will be there. It's going to position York on the global stage and send a message to the world. This is more than just a sports event. This is more than just a community event. This is a community statement, a chance to literally stand up for kindness, show up for kindness, and just have a wonderful experience. Regardless of the final score, it doesn't matter who wins the game. With kindness, everybody wins. I think everyone's going to come away from that experience feeling like, wow, they just witnessed something special and experienced something very special.
So that is Thursday, August 7th, and the festivities start at 6 o'clock, so you want to be here prior to that. But it's going to be a Pack the Park, and Pack the Park for Kindness. Check out YorkRevolution.com right now. Get your tickets. You could get out here and be part of just filling the whole Wellspan Park here that night, and getting together with other people in the community and just around the theme of kindness. I mean, I can't think of a better, more positive thing to be gathered around, Kevin.
Well, and again, York is the model that the other communities are now emulating. And this is going to be the first of its kind, a sports-themed event. And I'm convinced it'll be successful here. And it'll set the stage for other sports franchises to hopefully follow York's lead. And that's what this is about. York is leading the way. It's leading with kindness, sending a message to the world that if something so magical can happen here in York, Pennsylvania, it can happen anywhere and everywhere.
Kevin, I always like to ask you, because you're the guy that starts you're the leadoff man for us every week in terms of guests. A thought this week for people in terms of kindness, something that maybe they could use during the course of this week to repeat that kindness theme over and over again.
Well, I keep going back to kindness is a choice, and it only has good consequences. You can't fail being kind. And so, again, in the spirit of kindness, coming off Independence Day, we can be anything we want. We're blessed to live in the greatest country of the world, but just choose kindness and your world will instantly change, and the world around you. And only good things happen when you're kind. And that's something I hope everyone will be encouraged to be mindful of that each and every day.
Check out kindnessworldwide.org, and also write down right now and today, get your tickets for August 7th. That's Thursday, August 7th here at Wellspan Park. Ground zero for kindness that night. We want to get everybody out here, packing the stadium that night, and really making a statement for people about kindness, and we can do better. And we can be kind if we choose to be. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you, Gary. You can get your tickets at kindnessworldwide.org right at the top of the website. All the information's there.
Very good. Kindnessworldwide.org is maybe your first place to go to get your tickets right now. And then later on, we can also get tickets from YorkRevolution.com if we need to. But we got all that. Kindnessworldwide.org right at the very top. You can get the tickets there. Kevin Smith with us here this morning, and we'll talk to him again on Friday of this week when we have a Good Friday. Sponsored again by Kindness Worldwide. Kevin, have a great week.
Hey, thanks. You as well, Gary.
We take a break. We come right back here on the Gary Sutton Show at 6:48 with more news, more commentary, and yes, a few laughs along the way as well. All here on the Gary Sutton Show. Welcome back to Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. I do know this was Ringo's Starr. For some reason, I remembered this.
It was, each one of the Beatles had
A signature song, kind of.
with their own solo effort.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney was the first, and oh my goodness.
John Lennon.
Yeah, all the rest.
And then George
Ringo,
Harrison.
I think, was the last.
Yeah.
And this was a number one song.
It's a pretty good song, actually.
It is.
I thought, he
He had
was
a-
never known as much for the singing part as he was for playing the drums.
He had a number of hits in the 70s.
Right.
And, it was definitely credible. And the big thing now is his peace, love. He is 85 years old today.
Wow.
And I think, a great human being. The question, though, is he like a great drummer or not? That's what a lot
I don't
of
know. I mean, I'm not one to judge. I mean, he was okay. I mean, I would say he didn't deter from anything. But
I hear different drummers explaining, what he did with certain songs, and since I'm not a drummer, I would say that he was in the right place at the right time.
I would definitely say that were true. By the way, I wanted to tell you about Barley Snyder Law Firm, or Barley Snyder Attorneys at Law. And people always ask me about, that Barley Snyder, that you guys are branded with them. I said, we are. And we're very happy about that because they are a strategically focused law firm. What do I mean by that when I say that? They represent all kinds of businesses and organizations and individuals. And what happens is there are so many different areas of civil law that come up. We don't realize just how many areas. And so you need a law firm that can address all those kind of things. Well, that's what Barley Snyder does. They have over 130 attorneys. And what they do is they provide effective representation to a wide variety of clients in all kinds of areas. Give you an example: banking, business, creditors' rights, cybersecurity, employee benefits, environment and energy, ESOP, food and agribusiness, hospitality, healthcare, senior living, tax, real estate and construction, trusts and estates, very important, transportation, logistics and trade, municipal authority, litigation and risk management, intellectual property and patents, immigration and higher education. That's not all the areas, but that's a lot of them. And I'll tell you what a wide variety they cover. And they have people who are experts in those areas. Their lawyers love to get to know you. They love to get to sit down and establish a relationship with you and let you know you're going to get the personal attention that are essential elements for Barley Snyder Attorneys at Law. And they place great emphasis on a full understanding of each client's needs and objectives to provide the most effective representation. Now, wouldn't you want someone like that representing you? That's what Barley Snyder Attorneys at Law do. They provide the kind of service their clients expect and deserve by working on a hands-on collaborative approach to legal representation. Why don't you check them out today at barley.com or right here in New York at Barley Snyder. They're at 100 East Market Street in New York. You can give them a call at 717-846-8888. They're open Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Very proud to have Barley Snyder Attorneys at Law as our presenting sponsor here on the Gary Sutton Show. Mark?
So, I don't know if you heard about this, but remember there was another disaster that happened a while back, a little bit closer to us. The Key Bridge got hit. And this week, I guess, the last pieces of the Key Bridge are going to be demolished.
It's been more than a year since the collapse of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge, and this week, weather permitting, the Maryland Transportation Authority says demolition on the bridge's remaining structures will begin. Officials say the work is expected to take several months to complete and will involve the use of heavy machinery, explaining controlled detonations will not be used during this phase. 6 construction workers were killed when a cargo ship collided with the bridge in March of last year. A new bridge, which is expected to be finished in 2028, will become Maryland's first to be suspended by cables. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Speaking of events that are happening in the week ahead, and I think it's especially helpful, after a 3-day weekend, and one that had pretty good weather, so we were able to, as Kevin was talking about, kind of disconnect, but things are moving and shaking back quickly.
The week ahead.
Monday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will visit the White House. Bibi's third trip comes after the U.S. intervened in Israel's war with Iran, attacking Tehran's nuclear sites. Tuesday, a hearing is scheduled to discuss the sentencing schedule for Sean Diddy Combs. The hip-hop mogul was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution and acquitted of the more serious charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. Diddy could face up to 20 years in prison. Wednesday, no more extensions. President Trump's deadline of a 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs comes to an end. A number of countries have already inked deals with the White House, including the UK, Vietnam, and China. Friday, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. Again, the latest film about the Man of Steel flies into theaters. It's the first one written and directed by James Gunn in the DC universe. And that's a look at your week ahead. I'm Tom Graham, Fox News.
Yeah, I went to the movies over the weekend. Let's see. I bet it was the number 1 movie in the box office.
It may be the 7th film in the franchise, but Jurassic World Rebirth shows no signs of audience dinosaur fatigue.
The theme park owners did experimental work, leaving only the worst ones here.
The dinosaurs ruled the box office this 4th of July weekend. It opened on Wednesday, and industry estimates say it's taken in roughly $147 million so far. The dinos left the number 2 movie in the dust. That's Brad Pitt's F1. It brought in about $26 million for its second weekend. Third place went to Universal's live-action How to Train Your Dragon, which earned $11 million in its 4th weekend. Deborah Valentine, Fox News.
Yeah, somehow we get dragged to the Jurassic Park movie, and totally forgettable. Although I did see people jump a couple of times during the movie, and you know the dinosaurs look great and all, but the movie doesn't make any sense. And
yeah, well. Coming up this morning, we're going to try to make sense out of the big, beautiful bill, now the big, beautiful law, as Congressman Scott Perry from the 10th Congressional talks about the passage of that bill this past week on July 4th. It was signed. It was passed the day before. And what hath it wrought? What is it going to do? What's the intent of the big, beautiful bill? And will its good points outweigh any bad points that are going to come up later on? So the congressman will have that for you here on the Gary Sutton Show this morning when he joins us at 7:05. We're looking forward to getting his perspective on that and all that led up to that final vote here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOIK. But first, news at the top of the hour. It is 7 o'clock.
York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back? Back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
And welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show. Hour number 2 here on a Monday morning, brought to you by Barley Snyder Law Firm. Check them out at barley.com. Innovative legal solutions for your business. They are a law firm for today's business world. Gary Sutton, Mark McKenzie with you here on a Monday morning, July the 7th, 2025. It is, we got some rain coming, they say, in about 3.5 hours from now.
Or is it just showers?
Just showers, yeah. Nothing like what they had in Texas over the weekend. But they had like a quarter of the year's rain in a space of a couple hours, which was just, the way you described it a little while ago, Mark, was incredible.
I'm just taking it from what the meteorologist was saying.
And, obviously a lot of us thinking about that, thinking about what must that have been like and how horrible it was. Now 82 people found deceased as a result of that, and we're certainly thinking about them this morning. Our question of the day today, there was a story in the local newspaper today about the York Fair considering whether to move back to September or staying where they are here later in July. And the question, would you like to keep the York Fair where it is in July or move it back to the first week in September? I've always been kind of a September guy, just my favorite month for the York Fair, but that doesn't mean I think it's a bad idea for July. I think it's working out fine, but...
this is ridiculous.
Yeah. But
the whole point... didn't they have these conversations before moving it back again?
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
Right. So what's changed?
I don't think there's anything changing. I think they're always willing to consider it. I don't think there's anything major here, but
I don't know. I think that they're losing, the diehards are going to be there, granted.
Right.
But if you want to make this like kind of a regional thing, I remember talking to neighbors in Lancaster, they didn't know anything about the York Fair. I'm like, what are you talking about? I think that moving it doesn't help consistency, and especially in such a short time frame since the last time they moved it.
So you think that you have to give it a lot more time here in the summer to
and heat, was going to be a factor. We knew that moving it back.
Right.
So maybe you should have just left it where it was.
And still can be in September too.
Yeah.
By the way.
But right, it was less likely so.
Right. So there you go. So you can. By the way, you can check out our show on YouTube later on today after the show. Going to WOYK on YouTube or Just a Voice on Main Street, where I have a separate podcast there, one-on-one with various people who are making news in the community, like this guy, Congressman Scott Perry, 10th Congressional District, right here in our local area, who was part of the drama last week of passing the big, beautiful bill. Scott, good morning. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Great to be with you. Happy summer. Not sure what to say about the York Fair. I'm like you. I'm a September guy.
Yeah.
I don't mind it being earlier. I just grew up knowing it was always in September, so you kind of get used to that.
Yeah, it's just breaking an old habit, I guess. And I remember going to school, and on the first day, the one thing we looked forward to getting to with all the paperwork was our free ticket to the York Fair for that Tuesday. So I go back a little bit when I say that, but it was also an early break in the school year where you got a day off. Every kid in the county went to the York Fair from their school because you had the day off from school because the York Fair was that important. But anyway, great to have you on this morning. Obviously, you had a few things to think about last week. The big, beautiful bill, your name was brought up from time to time in the whole process. When you look at it now, how good is this legislation? I don't think it's perfect by any means. I know there's a lot of other things to do, but I know a number of your colleagues, Tom Tillis and Jim Justice and people like that, are suggesting that maybe the Medicare cuts that some people are talking about and the some of those things are really hanging out there. What's your take of the whole thing now, in hindsight, having voted on this already now?
Well, we've been working, of course, for a long time on it. I was originally a two-bill guy. If you remember that conversation, kind of almost at the beginning of the year. It's now, July. This is how long it took. One of the reasons is because it's so complicated and difficult. You get a lot invested in it. So, there are a lot of wins, right? The biggest actual reduction in spending, not just the reduction in the growth of spending, but also reduction in spending ever in Washington, D.C. You got to remember, for us, the Republican conference came back, I think, in the end of January, early February, and said, we can save $300 billion, right? And guys like me and the crew that I kind of run with there, we forced them to be at $1.6 trillion in savings by the time it's over. And, of course, the Trump era, the first Trump era tax cuts were set to expire this year. And that, first of all, it raises everybody's taxes. But second of all, it creates a lot of uncertainty for the future, knowing people don't know if they're going to expire, or are they going to, are they not going to, what do I do, how do I make decisions? That's all now off the table. So these are massive things that we got accomplished. Does it spend too much money, in my opinion? Yes, and that was always the fight. So guys like Tillis, they want to continue to spend more money. And Gary, first of all, the country's broke, right? We don't have extra money, and that's a big deal to me, because you look at interest rates and the price of doing, just regular business for your average family, it's expensive, and it's because Washington keeps on spending money. But the fact that we're spending money for people that are here illegally on, let's say, on Medicaid, they should not be here spending our money on Medicaid, and
right.
those are the things that we wanted to fix. We didn't fix them. We got some of it fixed, but we didn't get it fixed as much as I would have liked to. And for Tom Tillis to vote no, because he would prefer people that are here illegally get Medicaid dollars as opposed to people that are vulnerable in our American population, I just think that goes to show you where we are in Washington, D.C., and how convoluted things are.
Congressman, when you look at the raising the debt ceiling, was it to $5 trillion? A lot of people are sitting there going, and that's to pay for stuff that we've already voted on, stuff that we've already got. And people are saying, where does that stop? How do you ever stop that train from coming down the track where we're voting now on stuff that's already been voted on, so we're voting on things that we can't pay for, kind of going to your point. And so how do we ever get that under control? Where do we ever stop that?
Well, one of the concessions that we got in the final hours was to get the House leadership to finally put a balanced budget bill on the floor. I've had one since I've gone to Congress. There are numerous other ones over there, and it should appear, and you say it rightly, Gary, how does it ever stop? If you leave it up to members and just their votes without some kind of thing that forces us to do it, apparently no matter how much money we save or how many good things we do, we're always going to spend money we don't have. And something, you just can't leave it up to members of Congress and the Senate to do it because it's the right thing to do. We're going to have to be forced into it. So, I have some, what do you want to say? I guess I feel somewhat good about getting that concession. But to me, we shouldn't have to fight for that. That should be something we all kind of agree on, because this is how we live our lives. Like, you can't spend more money than you earn. Yet at the federal level, we keep doing it. Of course, the states count on it. And left up to members, it should be apparent to everybody that's not going to happen. So we're going to have something that forces us to do it. That would be something like the balanced budget amendment. But, here again, we have to pass that, and members are going to be loath to vote for it. And we want to see who votes for it. Of course, we got to see what the bill looks like, because let's face it, balancing the budget could also mean raising taxes. And in my way of thinking, the answer is to cut this out-of-control spending, not to raise taxes to make ends meet.
When will we do that? Because we have, $3.3 trillion that have been added to the deficit in this whole thing. And again, is the thought that it's going to generate enough economy to overcome that in the long run? What is the thinking there? For a lot of people, they're saying, wait a second, Republicans are supposed to be cutting down on the spending here, and we're not really doing that. We're adding to the deficit. And so when you look at this in the long run, what's the thought process there from what you can see?
Well, under the administration, and this is where we fought bitterly, is they think that there's going to be a substantial amount of growth because of the policies that were enacted, that it will overcome that. I am very skeptical about that. And so I kind of agree with you. Now, the president talks about tariffs and the new things in the tax code, or the expansion of the things in the tax code that are pro-growth, that are going to glean some additional revenue. And I told the president directly, I said, people voted for you, Mr. President, not because they were looking for more money for the swamp. We're not looking to grow the swamp's money. We're looking to cut the swamp back. And I think that's why Elon Musk was so upset about what happened there. So, the only thing that's going to tell the tale there is going through it and seeing how much money comes in because of the growth in the economy, or the different policies like the tariff policy. But, just be advised, the tariff policy is not in legislation. It is done by executive fiat from the president himself. And you get a new president, they could just say, well, we're not going to collect these tariffs anymore.
Scott, question, now that this has been passed, and obviously people are recognizing there are, this was the president's main legislation that he had to get done, and that was kind of the impetus for getting this through. Now that it's through, we've heard different stories about, well, there's going to be work done in certain areas as kind of a trade-off for voting for this. Forget that for a moment, but what work needs to be done now in addition to what this bill has put out there to make the president's 4 years a good 4 years coming up here, and also with the midterms coming up, a year and a half from now, what needs to be done to maybe clarify this bill a little bit more to the American people, or to add to it and make it better in the long run? Your thoughts on that?
Well, some things that were taken out of it. Understand that this process, which you only need 50 in the Senate, is very restrictive, and there were a lot of policies that were taken out of it, as you recall, by the parliamentarians. So a couple in particular, a thing called the REINS Act, which, the government is big on regulation. And the REINS Act says that if the regulators, the agencies like the IRS or the Department of Housing and Urban Development, create a new regulation that costs over $100 million, it has to come to Congress for approval. That didn't make it through. So we're still going to have the regulators kind of running amok and running the show. Now, of course, it's under the Trump administration where he says he's going to cut regulations, but Trump administration is not going to last forever. So that's an important factor. This thing called the Green New Scam, or what was passed under Joe Biden, the Inflation Reduction Act. There's a lot of energy policy in there that is really detrimental to our grid, Gary. And, I know that the people in our district are paying more every single month in their electricity bills, because we're paying them too. We see it, and there's no option. That's all being caused by the policies out of the previous administration. We got rid of a lot of it in this new bill, but we didn't get rid of all of it. And at the last moment, right before passage, Lisa Murkowski slipped in a couple sentences that essentially nullified what we did previously in the same legislation. So now the president's going to have to do some things at his level, but the courts are going to weigh in, and businesses that are receiving these hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies, they're going to weigh in, and it's not in the legislation. So those are a couple things that have to be and should be fixed moving forward.
And we will keep up to date with you on those as we go along. Congressman, appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you so much, and we look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thank you, Gary. Have a great summer. Hit them well.
We're trying hard. Thanks so much. Congressman Scott Perry, same thing. Be well out there, and thanks for joining us today. Congressman Scott Perry with us here this morning on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. The big, beautiful bill passing, of course, on July 3rd, and then being signed on Independence Day, July 4th, by President Trump. It is now law, and we'll see the reaction of people. We'll see the effects of what it has done, and Republicans are holding their breath on that as well with regard to Medicaid and the SNAP benefits. Those have been the two big things that many Democrats and many people in the country who are on those programs have talked about. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We've got a lot more coming your way here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Back after this.
Fox Sports Update.
Changes in Washington, D.C. Good morning, I'm Jared Max. 6 years since the Washington Nationals won the World Series, the team parted ways Sunday with the manager and general manager who oversaw their title. Dave Martinez fired as manager. Mike Rizzo fired as president of baseball operations. The Nationals have a record of 37-53. Last place in the NL East, swept Sunday at home by the Red Sox. Today, the Nationals will announce who will be their interim manager. The team named Mike DiBartolo as interim GM. The Nats are off today. They visit the Cardinals tomorrow. Sunday Night Baseball, Willie Adames and Tyler Fitzgerald hit home runs for the Giants, who beat the Athletics 6-2. Tennis, for the third time in 4 years, American Taylor Fritz will play in the quarterfinals at Wimbledon. Fritz advanced Sunday past Jordan Thompson, who retired in the second set. This marks 5 consecutive Grand Slam tournaments. At least one American man is in the quarterfinals, longest such streak since a run from 2002 to 2004, when American men competed in the quarterfinals of 6 straight major tournaments. American Amanda Anisimova, ranked 12th in the world, advanced to the quarterfinals Sunday. She came back from 3-1 down to the deciding third set to beat Linda Noskova and reach her second Wimbledon quarterfinal. Anisimova, the first American who's made it this far in this tournament. Emma Navarro will try to join Anisimova in the quarters today. Navarro plays Mira Andreeva in the fourth round. American Ben Shelton also in a fourth rounder today against Lorenzo Sonego. 7-time Wimbledon champion Novak Djokovic takes on Alex de Minaur. Golf. For the second time this year, Brian Campbell won a tournament in a playoff. Campbell won the John Deere Classic on the first playoff hole over Emiliano Grillo. Campbell earned $1.5 million. Soccer. For the second year in a row, Mexico won the CONCACAF Gold Cup. Mexico beat the United States men's national team 2-1 last night. You can download the Fox Sports Podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you download your favorite podcasts. I'm Jared Max.
Get more on the Fox Sports app and foxsports.com.
And welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show, brought to you this hour by the Bison Farm, local family-owned farm in Mount Wolf. Central Family Restaurant and Augie's Joint at the Central Market both offer bison burgers from their product. And you can buy their products through the market right there at New Eastern Market on Fridays and the Central Market on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. The Bison Farm carries a full range of products from ground bison and burgers to steaks and roasts. You can check them out at thebisonfarm.com. And also, bison is the healthy red meat. So a link to their website shows some of the benefits of bison over beef. Bisonfarm.com/whybison if you want to find out why it's a great food to eat. And I'll tell you what, I make the bison briskets on my smoker, and I love them. And I know this month is National Bison Month as well, right, Mark?
July is National Bison Month, but I don't know why.
Yeah, you don't know why, and
makes no sense to me.
No, but it is nevertheless. And
apparently,
so there you have it. So,
but it doesn't say. Maybe it's a leg.
Yeah,
They didn't say anything about a brisket.
But this hour brought to you by the Bison Farm, which we do know why that is, because they are a nice partner for us in this particular business. So, and they do a great job. These Verdicts just have a wonderful farm down there, and they just do a wonderful job. And very humane in how they harvest those and all those kind of things. So the very best food, you can find them right there next to Augie's Joint, right there in the Central Family Restaurant, or Central Market. Central Family Restaurant makes bison burgers. Central Market has the bison burger stand, the whole bison stand with burgers and, all the different kinds of things, briskets, everything that I like. So there you go.
Do they have a leg of bison?
I don't know. I haven't asked that yet.
Is there a filet mignon of bison?
I don't know.
What about
They say
ribs?
they have all of the bison meat, so I would assume they have a lot of those kinds
all
of
of those parts.
Yes. I'm not prepared to go beyond my original statement.
The tail?
I don't know.
What about that hump that they have?
No, I don't know about any of that.
Hey, let's talk about animals.
Okay.
Some animals that you do know about, and that is cats. Mm-hmm. Right? You have
I'm
Scamp.
very aware of, yes.
And Lily and Tuxedo.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, this is just for you.
Take a pause.
We are in the midst of kitten season when baby cats can overwhelm animal shelters, but They're so cute.
Beautiful inside and out. They all have their own unique personalities.
Rena LaFai of the ASPCA.
This is happening right now as we are in, the middle of kitten season, when shelters nationwide are just flooded with vulnerable newborn kittens.
There's a real need for people to foster and adopt kitties right now, but be warned, the smallest ones can mean the most work.
Kittens under 8 weeks old are definitely amongst the most vulnerable population because they often require round-the-clock care and feeding, just like a newborn.
But if you've got the heart, the perseverance, and the strength, the ASPCA says these little guys could use your help. Take a pause. Jill Nato, Fox News.
So did you learn anything about that?
Not really. No,
Really?
No, our cats are older now, and so we're enjoying that age of cat at the moment, and I don't really care about anything else. By the way, a brand new political party coming out. Elon Musk, after the big beautiful bill became big beautiful law. We were just talking with Congressman Perry about that a moment ago. Elon Musk came out and said, "I'm starting a new party. It's called the America Party." And he said, by a factor of 2 to 1, you want a new political party, and you shall have it. He wrote, the announcement from Musk comes after Trump signed his self-styled big, beautiful tax cut and spending bill into law on Friday, which Musk fiercely opposed. So Elon Musk, who became the world's richest man thanks to his Tesla car company and his SpaceX satellite firm, spent hundreds of millions of dollars on Trump's election and led the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, from the start of the president's second term, aimed at slashing government spending. And the first sign of his dissatisfaction with Musk's announcement followed later in the day. Investment firm Azoria Partners will postpone the listing of a Tesla exchange-traded fund, Azoria CEO James Frederick said in a post on X. So some of the corporate types are coming out against Musk on this whole thing.
So did Musk say what he doesn't like?
He basically didn't like the idea of adding to the deficit. And I know that there was a disagreement with he and the president on special exemptions for people that were using other types of energy. And, of course, he is for his cars and so forth. So he is not liking that particular part.
So,
yeah. So we'll see where that all goes. I don't know at this particular point. Hey, what I do know is if you need to rent something for any job that you have, both indoor and outdoor, then you need to get to Harvey's Rental right there at 1409 South George Street in New York. Harvey's Rental is a Stihl elite dealer. Stihl, S-T-I-H-L, one of the great names in outdoor products to do the kinds of jobs like edging or mowing or things like that. And they have all the stuff from Stihl down there. In fact, they are an elite dealer. So when it comes to finding something with Stihl involved in it, you can check it out. They got special offers right now, like a $100 instant rebate on Stihl RM 655 mowers, or a $120 instant rebate on the Stihl RM 756 yard mower. They've got featured products like edgers and weed eaters. They've got all those kind of things down there right now, and you can get on down and see the full display at Harvey's Rental, 1409 South George Street, right here in New York. They are open every single weekday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And when it comes to the most to rent under one roof, Harvey's has got it all for you. Chances are, if you need it and you don't have it, Harvey's does. Why don't you check out what they have today? Give them a call at 717-845-2789. Indoor, outdoor, all around the town. Harvey's Rental Incorporated is the place to go. They've been part of York since 1970, part of our community, and the place to go when you don't have stuff, Harvey's probably does. Give them a call today. Again, it's 717-845-2789 and tell them Gary Sutton proudly sent you. WOYK News Time is 7:30. Welcome back. Gary Sutton Show here on a Monday morning on the main street of York. This hour being brought to you by the Bison Farm, local family-owned farm in Mount Wolf, Central Family Restaurant, Augie's joint over in the Central Market. Both offer bison burgers for their product. You can buy their products through the market stands at New Eastern Market on Fridays and Central Market on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. They carry a full range of products from ground bison and burgers to my favorite, which is the brisket, which I have come to love, to steaks and roasts, answering some of Mark's questions earlier. TheBisonFarm.com is where you go. TheBisonFarm.com. Are located right here at Mount Wolf. And bison is the healthy red meat, so get a link to their website that shows some benefits of bison over beef by going to bisonfarm.com/whybison. So there you have it. Bison Farm are sponsors of this hour. We're very proud to have them aboard as partners. And we turn right now to Mark Hendrickson, who was very gracious today and getting up a little bit earlier to be with us this morning because we had some other guests who we had to kind of move around. And good morning, Mark. How are you?
Good morning, Gary. I'm doing well, thanks.
Mark, of course, one of only 13 players to ever play NBA basketball and Major League Baseball at the same time, but also played college basketball at Washington State University. You know, Mark, I was struck last week, July 1st, the first time that colleges can now pay directly money to student athletes to compete. And obviously, most of the Division I universities that are engaged in this now, by this new ruling out of a couple of lawsuits a few years ago, can now pay out over I forget how many millions or even $1 billion they can pay to their athletes. What good and bad do you see out of this decision? We've talked a little bit about it before, but now it's official. And as of July 1st, each of the major colleges are able to pay out this exorbitant amount of money.
Well, hopefully it evens the playing field a little bit if it stays true to, I think it's like around $20 million per university. If they can stay there, you've got somewhat of a salary cap. So hopefully that makes it a little bit more competitive amongst the top schools. Now, obviously, we've talked about this before, but, you know, you're going to be separating some of the Power 4 conference schools versus the rest of Division I, and that's kind of unfortunate. But, you know, I think it was something that was inevitable. It's just a matter of trying to figure out where that pendulum kind of lies in the middle moving forward.
When you look at this, and again, I keep on coming back, I look at it, I say something should have been done. You know, where someone could use your number, for example, in college to, to make money. So obviously there should have been something done earlier, and maybe we wouldn't have had the massive thing that we have right now. But in the long run, it wasn't. And so a lot of us have said, okay, this used to be called cheating. Now it's not. Now it's perfectly legal to do so. But there's something that doesn't feel right about it. It's just something that feels wrong about it. What's your take on that when you hear people talk that way?
I think some of it's probably just reaction to everything. There's always going to be cheating. I think that's something that's inevitable. So I think there's going to be schools that probably skirt around the rules that are currently outlaid right now. I think the honest thing, if you ask a true fan, they just want to see competition at its best. And we've talked about this regarding the NCAA tournament for men's basketball. That always seems to be, maybe the one format in college that really draws in the average fan because it's just competition. And so you never argue the champion. 6 victories is 6 victories. That's hard to come by. And everybody that's in that tournament has equal opportunity to win. And so I just think from a fan standpoint, that's what you want to see. I mean, from a college football standpoint, I want to see a little variety. I want to see competition, at its best because I'm a purist. And so seeing the same schools continually be at the top, and if it's a financial thing, that's a hard pill to swallow because college talent is spread a lot thinner than professional talent.
Right.
So, you spend the money, you're going to have a significant advantage.
We've talked about some of the schools that can no longer compete in that level. St. Francis here in Pennsylvania, it comes to mind out at Loretto near Johnstown, has gone from Division I now to Division III. Does this separate those kinds of schools where we used to see maybe, a George Mason sneaking into the Final Four? Will that not happen now because of the amount of money that these bigger schools can pay, and the smaller schools really can't.
Well, we've talked about this before. I mean, imagine if you are a George Mason and now you get a run or a program that maybe it shows signs of getting to that point the previous year.
Yeah.
They're going to lose their players.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're a player standpoint and you go to a school, maybe you don't get recruited highly out of high school. You go somewhere and have a great year. You're going to cash in if somebody's going to come offer you some money. So consistently, those programs, Gonzaga was a prime example back 20 years ago. They started to really lift up mid-majors and really compete on a national scale, but they had players that would stay at the school for a while, so you could develop them. I don't think you can do that anymore, because if you do have a good 1 or 2 years from a kid, they're going to move on to another university that's going to offer them money. You can't blame a kid to turn down somebody coming and offering them money either.
So money is going to trump loyalty to colleges, where, you know, loyalty used to be a big thing. And I think it's going to, I don't know, I think in the long run it's going to change the whole paradigm of how we look at college sports. Do you see it that way?
I do, and for me, I worry if it's going to trickle down to high school, because then I think it sends the wrong message. These kids that are getting to Division I, you got to remember, they're beating a lot of odds. You know, they're getting to a level that most athletes don't get to. So, of course, we're focusing on the ones that are getting paid. But for the most part, it's the whole experience in athletics. And I'd hate to see that trickle down to now you're getting kids under 18, maybe, you know, that sense of entitlement, you know, and the fact that are they becoming coachable, who's in their ear, you know, all these things that, you know, being in the game can really affect how a person performs and how a team performs.
It's been interesting to watch, and having had a chance to work with Central here the last couple of years of basketball, watch what some of the elite athletes from there, they're going to college now. One's going to go to a prep school to get ready for that, and the other one is going to a division school where he's going to play a lot, and Division II is a very, very good level, by the way. And yet at the same time, their decisions to some degree were prompted by the idea that, you know, freshmen, if you're not an elite freshman, and I say elite, you're a franchise type player going into college, guess what? You're not as important now as you used to be going in there, right?
Not at all. Not at all. You're going to have to go a different route because schools don't have the time. They just don't have the time to develop. And if they do want to go that route, they're thinking, why would I want to have an 18-year-old kid that I developed for 1 year and then he's going to go somewhere else? You know, so can a school and a university, you know, keep a kid longer than 1 year? That's a very difficult thing. Before it was going on to the pros. Now it's going on to another university.
Well, and the other thing, too, that's changed that has been the portal, which says, okay, I'm going to take some guy with experience in college, or am I going to take some kid that has no experience and go to your very point that I have to develop? And you're saying, I'll take the kid that's already developed and take him in. And now every one of those that comes over, that's one spot you're not going to have for your freshman anymore, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I just think it's the landscape of, you know, these kids have to get, you know, there's got to be creative ways. You know, they can almost work their way up. So if you don't necessarily get highly recruited, you know, out of high school, and I'm a prime example, I told people all the time, my biggest impact from high school to college was I went somewhere where I could play. Washington State wasn't the biggest school on my list, and they weren't the powerhouse coming out of high school, but I played more than probably 95% of freshmen that year around the country. So pick a school that is a fit that you can go and play and develop, because ultimately that's what you want to do. You play sports to play.
Finally, I wanted to ask you, yesterday, Zach Wheeler went out and threw a one-hitter for the Phillies. And I was thinking about you a little bit, and I wanted to ask this question this morning. You've pitched some great games. I mean, you pitched in the majors. What's the mindset when you're pitching like a no-hitter or a one-hitter? You know, how do you – I want to crawl inside your head for a second here. How do you look at that each hitter? You got to come in. You got to sit down. Do you want people talking to you? You want things to be just normal? Do you want people to let you alone when you're in the midst of something like that? What's your thought process as you're going through that and pitching a game like that?
I think it depends on perhaps the score of the game, the personality of the pitcher. It can vary. You know, baseball players, so superstitious. Not that it really matters, but we're just goofballs when it comes to that kind of stuff. But, you know, you realize you just stay in the moment. I think that's the one thing in pro sports. You stay in the moment, because as soon as you get too far ahead or look back, you're in trouble. just because the competition is so good. So a lot of times when guys are going good like that, they're just really in the moment and, just doing their thing.
Big question. Are you superstitious at all?
I was, yeah, and I tried to tell myself why the heck for. I know it was never that way in basketball, but baseball, you're around so many goofballs in the sport itself that we think it's going to matter. And ultimately, when you look back, it's like, nah, it just doesn't.
Well,
it doesn't matter.
So would you share any one of your superstitions that you might have had?
You can't step on the line. You've got to have, the right step coming out of the dugout. It's because there's so much of a routine.
Right.
As a pitcher, as a hitter, you have that routine that you do pre-pitch that I think that kind of leads to superstition because you're doing it so many times. You got to remember, look at how many games you play in baseball. So many more than all the other sports. So that's, I think, where it kind of starts. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, well, I'm doing this routine so much that I've got to keep doing it.
I was at a little golf match for a couple of dollars on Saturday, and my friend and I had 4 birdies in a row. And so he went up to change the order of how we're going to hit. I said, no, you're not. I said, get down here. I'm hitting first. He goes, why? He said, are you superstitious? I said, I'm not superstitious, but why take a chance? Now, that's kind of my standard answer. So anyway, so I understand superstitions a little bit. And they're kind of fun, because we do have this idea that somehow these affect the game when we know they really don't. Mark, great stuff this morning as always, my friend. Thanks for switching times. We'll be back at our normal time next week, and really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, sounds good.
Have a great week. Take care. Mark Williamson here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Superstitions. Yeah, we do get superstitious, don't we? And it does come out of, and I think Mark was right on that, out of routine. We do the same routines over and over again. So if that changes at all, then we kind of get a little weird about it. So anyway, there you have it. We'll take a break. We'll come right back with more here on the Gary Sutton Show right after this. always get my attention if you come back with a bass.
On the last flag.
The Breeders, Cannonball. It was a good. It's hard not to move when.
Yeah, good hard driving bass and guitar, and yeah, I like that a lot.
1993 bumper music today.
By the way, if you're moving a little slower right now, it might be time to check your tires. Yeah, again, Gary, you talked about that all winter. Yeah. Well, the Jack G. and Balvo family of dealerships car tip of the week is check those tires again. Hot pavement and long drives can be tough on your tires. Make sure your tread looks good, your tires are properly inflated, and your spare is in good shape too. If you don't do that, you're going to find it's going to drag you down a little bit later on. And speaking of GM Balvo Mitsubishi, the perfect summer deal is waiting right now at GM Balvo Mitsubishi for you. Finance the 2025 Outlander at 0% APR for 60 months. Enjoy rates as low as 2.99% APR for 48 months on the 2025 Eclipse Cross. Or save $2,500 on the Mirage Black Edition. Fun, efficient, and affordable. No pressure, no gimmicks, just real value on vehicles you love. That's the GM Balvo way. They're going to take care of making sure that you experience what that family of dealerships has been doing for York County for a long time. Might be new ownership down there right now, but the same kind of hustle you've seen from Jack G. and Balvo family of dealerships for a long time. Drive a Mitsubishi, experience the GM Balvo difference, regret nothing. GM Balvo, Mitsubishi, and GM Balvo Kia are located right there at the corner of Roosevelt Avenue and Route 30 in York at 1301 and 1305 Roosevelt Avenue. Stop down and see what they have for you today. They've got some great deals, great inventory, and tell them Gary Sutton proudly sent you to GM Balvo, Mitsubishi. Check them out at gmbalvomitsubishi.com or gmbalvokia.com and tell them Gary Sutton proudly sent you. WOYK News Time, 7:53.
So how do you make ends meet? You know, if you can't, you probably
by
work.
Bringing the two ends together and tying them up.
No, let's say you're retired. What do you do then? Or let's say you already have a full-time job. What do you do then? Yes, that's exactly right. Part-time job.
A recent survey by Lending Tree revealed that some 40% of Americans are earning extra money through side hustles. Part-time jobs help supplement their income. That same survey says 61% of those with a side hustle say they wouldn't be able to afford life without it. InstaWork is a service that connects companies with temporary and full-time workers. Tells Fox Business this trend is being driven by younger workers. Some 40% of their new signups are between the ages of 18 and 24 years old. John Saucier, Fox News.
I guess it's the same as it's always been.
I do a lot of that now still. I have a lot of different interests that I work in and that, make a little bit of money for me. But I enjoy this more than anything else. So I guess I do some hustles along the way.
Summer is here. Families are traveling. But this is the question's always, what do you do with the kids? You know, you keep them busy. But these days they have iPads and that kind of thing. But this story is about summer travel problems with seniors.
Family trip planning means juggling the needs of kids and adults. But don't forget to include senior family members in the mix. Dr. Lakeland Eichenberger is a gerontologist and caregiving advocate and says being mindful of their routine is also important.
If they're kind of at their best in the morning, maybe you plan the most exciting activity of the day during that time frame to allow for resting in the afternoon, just so that they can really enjoy and get the most out of the travel experience.
Be sure to bring enough of their prescription medication and keep it with you instead of packing it in checked bags. If mobility is a concern, check for accessibility at your destination. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Some of that just seems like common sense, no?
Yeah, it does. By the way, I was looking at some of the things that happened 10 years ago this week. It was kind of an interesting list. For example, the tropicalfruit.com is who did this. The tropicalfruit.com did another round of 10 things that happened 10 years ago this week. Here's what they came up with.
Okay.
Jared from Subway got busted for being a perv.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the FBI raided his home in Indiana on July 7th as part of a child pornography investigation. Subway immediately dumped him as their spokesperson.
It was a shocker.
Yeah, he'll be eligible for parole in 2029. He actually sat down with Daryl and I, did a couple innings of a game here at the stadium back in those days. Wow. So, we were in 2007 to 2009. We did games then, and he sat down with us. 2 NFL players lost fingers playing with fireworks. Remember defensive end Jason Pierre-Paul had his right index
JPP.
finger. Yep, amputated 4 days after a firework mangled his hand. And C.J. Wilson lost 2 fingers in a fireworks mishap that year. C.J. retired. Jason made the Pro Bowl in 2020. Let's see. Oreo Thins made their debut 10 years ago. People made fun of them at first, but they're pretty popular a decade later. The Women's World Cup final was the most watched soccer match in U.S. history at that point. 26.7 million people turned to watch the U.S. beat Japan 5-2. A kid passed his driving test and his mom crashed into the DMV. It happened at a DMV in Huntsville, Alabama. She claimed the brakes didn't work, but her son had just passed his test in the same car.
Oh, my.
So there you go. Did not work out well for them.
It is House Call for Health time.
This is House Call for Health. July is UV Awareness Month, an annual skin cancer awareness campaign to talk about skin cancer protection and prevention. The American Academy of Dermatology says UV is the root cause of most skin cancers, and there are some steps you can take to protect yourself. First, hit the shade when you can. Also, wear sun protective clothing, and always apply a broad-spectrum, water-resistant sunscreen with an SPF of 30 or higher. Dermatologists also highlight some common sunscreen mistakes: ignoring the label, using too little, using an old bottle, or relying solely on sunscreen. Also applying it only in sunny weather. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
You wear any of that?
I don't wear sunscreen. Nope.
But you wear a hat?
I do wear a hat. I do take precautions, and I wear a hat. But I've kind of been a natural tanner my whole life for some reason, and I've never had problems with skin cancer. That's not to say that I couldn't.
Right.
But I do take some medicine that makes me more susceptible. By the way, I do want to remind you this hour has been brought to you by the Bison Farm. They are... You can buy bison burgers at Central Family Restaurant and also Augie's Joint right there in the Central Market. They have bison burgers all the time from the Bison Farm. But it's a locally owned family farm in Mount Wolf. And I'll tell you what, they do a great job with bison down there. They keep about 40 head on the lot all the time. And you can buy their products through their market stands at New Eastern Market and also the Central Market. And they carry a full range of products from ground beef and or not ground beef, ground bison actually, and burgers to steaks and roasts, and even the bison brisket that I love so much, I love to make in a smoker. Check them out at thebisonfarm.com. That's thebisonfarm, all one word, .com. Or find out a little bit more about why bison is the healthy red meat by going to bisonfarm.com/whybison. They are an outstanding couple who just do a great job, and the food is fantastic that you can get from there.
I think I've had a bison burger before.
Probably. Well,
But I don't remember the taste being, it was just less fatty.
Well, coming up at 8:05 this morning, Grover Norquist is going to talk about maybe the fat and the big, beautiful bill and maybe what we need to do to slim it out here in the long run. He'll take his analysis. He's the president of the Americans for Tax Reform. He'll do his analysis of the big, beautiful bill and thoughts about its passage last week, its signing on July 4th, and where it goes from here. And then Major Joe Decree joins us at 8:35. All ahead on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back again?
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
And welcome back to the final hour on a Monday morning here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Brought to you by Barley Snyder, attorneys at law. Barley Snyder is a strategically focused law firm representing businesses, organizations, and individuals in all major areas of civil law. With offices throughout Pennsylvania and Maryland, this firm's more than 130 attorneys are ready to help you in a variety and an array of areas that might affect your life, providing innovative and effective representation. And they are ready to help you today. Give them a call right here in York at 846-8888. That's 717-846-8888. Or check them out at barley.com today. Very proud to be associated with them. And this hour, the 8 o'clock hour this morning, sponsored specifically by Poblano's Tex-Mex Grill. That's right. They're located right there in the Carlisle Commerce Center, 2150 White Street here in York, suite number 7. It's the old Marcello's Pizza. And they're open 11 to 8. Tuesday through Saturday, or actually Monday through Saturday, 11 to 8, Monday through Saturday. You can stop out there today. They just had a great article in the newspaper about them last week, about how they're getting ready to celebrate their 1-year anniversary. They started on July 19th last year. They're going to be celebrating on July 17th. Pablo Ayala and Lachelle Rios, they are fiancés, by the way, who have put their talents down right there. And I'll tell you what, they are making some unbelievable food out there right now. And it's Tex-Mex food. The menu features new spins on old classics, including sweet and savory empanadas, beef chicken, and apple pie. Two of their most famous menu items include the loaded seasoned poblano fries, topped with white queso, poblano cream. They've got roasted corn, fresh cilantro, the signature burrito packed with your choice of meat, rice, beans, and a mountain of shredded cheese, lettuce, pico de gallo, and sour cream. And recently, they started offering birria grilled cheese sandwiches. Oh, my goodness. A take on a popular Mexican taco made with slow-cooked meat and served beside flavorful broth called consomme and poblano buffalo wings. They have all that out there. Check them out today. They are ready to serve you. Poblano's Tex-Mex Grill, proud sponsors of this hour on the Gary Sutton Show. And don't forget, you can also get takeout, 717-893-7781. That's 717-893-7781. Open today and throughout the week, except for Sunday, 11 to 8. You can find their menu at Toast Tab, Toast tab, all one word, .com. WOYK News Time is 8:07. It's 77 degrees out here on Brooks Robinson Plaza. And we welcome in this morning our friend Grover Norquist, who is president of the Americans for Tax Reform. Good morning, Grover. How are you?
Gary, good to be with you.
Well, it's always an honor to have you aboard. And something called the Big Beautiful Bill might have gotten passed the other day. I don't know if you heard about it. I say with tongue in cheek, but President Trump signed it into law on July 4th. And I wanted to get your take on the whole bill. A lot's been said about it. And I wanted to see where this thing goes in terms of helping us as the American people. Your thoughts this morning, Grover?
Absolutely. If this bill had not passed, over the next 10 years, there would have been a $4 to $5 trillion tax increase. Every Democrat who voted against this legislation voted to raise your taxes, and everyone you know, $4 to $5 trillion over the next 10 years. So one, we avoided a massive tax increase because the Trump tax cuts of 2017 were about to disappear. What also was passed in this legislation was making sure that we have permanency in some of the tax cuts that might otherwise, not just extend them out a few years, but permanency. And what a business needs to know, if they're going to, should we buy another truck? Should we expand the amount of space that we rent? Do we buy new equipment? Do we get new computers for everybody? How do we make our workers more productive? But what are the rules on expensing, depreciation for the new costs of businesses? This is now all settled for the next
decades into the future. People can plan. Companies can spend a lot of money buying new computers and new equipment and new trucks and everything that they wouldn't necessarily. They'd have to take much more cautiously and wait to make decisions, not knowing what was going to happen. We now know what the tax policy is going to look like. There are more tax cuts coming. The Republicans are going to do 2 more bills like this, meaning reconciliation packages that the Democrats can't veto. The Democrats can't stop.
Right.
So we will see more reduction of wasteful spending and more tax reform and tax reduction once in November and once in the spring. So this is extremely helpful for growth. When the Trump tax cuts were passed originally in 2017, 2 years later, as a result of the new investment that companies made and so on, the median family income, meaning half the people earn less in this family, half the people in America earn more, dead center median family income increased 6.8%. That was huge.
Yeah. When you look at this bill, you hear the Democrats and some Republicans as well who are saying this bill is a tax cut for the rich and it hurts the poor. We've heard that. It's not the first time we've heard that argument. But as you analyze this bill, as you look at it, are tax cuts where we have tax cuts across the board always going to benefit the rich? Because if you make more money, you're going to get more money out of it. Was this an overwhelming move toward helping the rich people here in this country, or should we be looking at it another way? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, the Democrats say that every time the Republicans do anything.
Right.
They always say, oh, we want to tax the rich. Do remember that when Obama became president, the first thing he did was raise taxes on cigarettes, average income of cigarette smoker at $35,000 a year. So they will tax lower income people who have an addiction because they want the cash. And so this idea that they only tax higher income people is silly. The other one is when you tax corporations, the Democrats like to say, oh, corporations and big and rich people get all the money. When you tax a corporation, where do you think the money comes from? There is no Mr. General Motors to write a check. The only way a company has money to pay taxes is because they sell products to Americans. And so consumers pay higher prices, but about 70% of the cost of the corporate income tax hits workers in lower wages. Why is that? Well, because about 70% of the money that companies have gets paid to workers.
Right.
Not to equipment and to new factories and so on, but in wages. And if they come and take $1 million from a company and they say, well, we've got to cut spending by $1 million because we don't have it anymore, the government took it, where that comes from is wage increases that don't happen or layoffs that you pay fewer people or you pay the same people less. So the corporate income tax is a tax on workers that Democrats like to hide, that every time they announce we're going to have a property tax on the grocery store. Well, guess who pays for that? People who work at that grocery store and everybody who buys tomatoes there.
Grover, we see where there's $3.3 trillion added over a 10-year period to the deficit. And obviously, I don't think there's anybody that says deficit spending is necessarily good for the country. What's the thought here on this law? Will it generate more income, thus bringing that down ultimately? Or is there not enough to be done in this bill right now on lowering the deficit, lowering the debt in the country? There's more need to be done on that by some other bill down the road. Your thoughts on that one?
Yes. Number one, this legislation is projected to raise about $4 trillion over a decade simply by taking the growth up to 3% a year. You do that for a decade, you raise an additional $4 trillion over the next, now not through higher taxes, but through more growth and people with higher wages and companies that earn more money paying taxes on the new income that they create. That is what happened when Reagan cut taxes. It's what happened when Coolidge cut taxes. It's what happened when Kennedy cut taxes. This is not a surprise. This is the truth that the Democrats don't they just deny it and announce that you shouldn't cut taxes. In point of fact, every time we reduce marginal tax rates, wages go up, and the government actually gets more money because the economy grows, which is a good thing to have a growing economy. That's a very important part. Now, should we reduce spending? Should we rein in spending? Yes. Should we do it more than we do it now? Yes. When we do make some changes in Medicaid, the left has been announcing, claiming that this would be bad for X, Y, and Z. Spending on Medicaid will go up next year and for the next 10 years. It doesn't go down, goes up. Not as rapidly as it was going to. Well, how are they going to do that? Well, they're going to say you have to be a citizen. So sometimes you'll see the Democrats lie and say this is going to cut benefits to Americans. Actually, it will deny cash being handed out to people who aren't citizens and aren't supposed to be getting Medicaid money, and also to young men who can work and should work and are refusing to work or even look for work. They're going to be told, you know what, we're not handing out cash to you unless you're out working. There's 6 million jobs in this country that aren't filled. There's, you can get a job if you try. And one of the reasons some people decide not to is that you can get cash thanks to Obama turning Medicaid into a welfare program instead of a health care program. So that is being reformed to not do that and to focus the help on those who really need it. So the left will say this. Here's the challenge. It's a year until the next election. We will see both economic growth and we'll see that the reforms on Medicaid are not things that bother the American people and actually are helpful for the American people and allow the program to focus on those people who are supposed to be getting it and who need it and who are citizens and who are working. So this expect the left to announce lots of things, but remember, that's what they said every time we reduce taxes, and they've been wrong each time.
We're going to watch and see what happens out of this bill. Grover, appreciate your analysis this morning. Thank you, and we'll be checking in with you along the way. Always good to talk to you, and have a great week, okay?
You too.
Thanks, Grover.
Thank you.
Grover Norquist, president of the Americans for Tax Reform. You can find him at atr.com and find out some of his thoughts on various things regarding taxes and particularly on this bill. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We got a lot more coming your way here on the Gary Sutton Show, including some news you just might have missed. We'll have it for you next on WOYK.
Here's Higgins driving one to deep left field. Taka's back, looks, it sails out of here. Ryan Higgins with a 2-run home run to left. And Higgins unloads on his 6th of the year. Revs not done yet. It's 12-8.
Unfortunately, 16-9 was the final score for the Revs yesterday, and they lost 4-1 the day before that. They did win on Friday night, 13-9, and so the Revs lost 2 out of 3 to Staten Island this weekend. Yesterday marked the beginning of the second half of the season, so the Revs now 0-1 in the second half of the season. But things will change, things will get better, and they already have the first half championship in their back pocket, so they're playing with house money. So looking forward to seeing
what does that
do.
mean?
They're already in the playoffs. They're already in the playoffs.
So even if they were to just for
not win another game,
yes,
they would be in the playoffs.
Okay,
yeah. So that's how good it is. And they already have achieved one goal, which is to make it to the playoffs. But they won the first half championship, which I know is another one of their goals as well. I was reading a thing this morning. 6 signs you're a bad boss. How many of you are bosses? How many of you work for a boss? Probably all of you fall somewhere in that category, unless you're employed by yourself and then you like yourself a lot as a boss. Anyway, if you have employees, let's hope that you're the type of boss that's giving them extra leeway this week, because everyone's going to be moving a little slower. Yeah, I mean, it's the week after July 4th, but if you're still expecting a lot out of them, you might want to slow your roll. Here are 6 signs that you're a bad boss, as according to Forbes magazine, so it does have a little bit of pedigree behind it. Mm-hmm. The coercer. They have them divided into different names. The coercer. The type of boss manipulates their team to prioritize their own personal interests over the team's needs. The coercer. So, not a great kind of boss, maybe.
Well,
but it's nice to have someone who pushes you along a little bit. The avoider. This type of boss doesn't show up for their team. They fail to respond to emails and frequently don't give their team the support needed for their success.
That's not good.
And we would never say that about any of our guys here, because they all are very helpful and wonderful.
Yep.
The micromanager. This type of boss is overly involved in day-to-day dealings with their team, often dictating personal preferences for how the work should be done. I don't know that you and I have ever worked for a micromanager, have we?
I don't think so. They mainly let us do our work.
I remember the one little thing we had at our former place of employment where we had these windows into the other studios, and you weren't allowed to block the windows. Somehow you watched other people do their job. Like, I never care about other people doing their job while I was doing mine. I guess that was more of an idiosyncrasy.
But it was annoying.
It was annoying because you couldn't put anything in the window because it might block the window. So that might be one example of micromanaging, which didn't really affect us that badly, but it was an example. Here's one. Here's a type of boss called the blocker. Now, this type of boss fails to recognize individual contributions. They get in the way of their team's progression by focusing on their own advancement. Yeah, people don't like that kind of boss, where they're pushing ahead and it's going to be at your expense, or nothing ever is going to be given in terms of credit to you, or if it is given, they somehow take it from you. The blocker.
The blocker.
Number 5, the hoarder. Yeah, this type of boss holds all of the key information and selectively shares it with the team, if ever. Yeah, I mean, this can cause duplicate work and anxiety among the team. So
which could also be a coercer.
Yeah, which could also be a coercer. Exactly right. Once we've hoarded it, then we coerce you to get it done. Yeah, and finally, number 6, and I think this boss is the one that all of us detest, the blamer. This type of boss will blame others if something goes wrong and will fail to ever take accountability. It's their resolution at all cost. If you've seen one of these kind of bosses, then, I'm sorry, but
I think we all have.
Yeah, the blamer, you don't blame people. I've never been very good on excuses, and I don't like excuses for people. And the blamer always has an excuse for themselves and blames somebody else. And I just find it to be, as I said before, detestable. Okay? There's a thought for you. Yeah.
Is there more?
No.
That was it, right?
No, that was it. Yeah.
There, I mentioned that I went to the movie. And, the big movies this summer, Superman coming out this coming weekend.
Yeah.
Interesting, not the happy-go-lucky kind of guy. He's struggling with some issues.
Oh.
I'm not exactly sure what they are.
Is it being remade too many times?
No. I mean, they sort of have to do it with
Different
movies.
generations.
The technology improves, right?
Yeah.
So now they have all these superhero movies. You got to redo the number one superhero, right?
Right.
So
I guess.
I guess I sort of understand that. But this is a different take. So this might be the third one, the fourth one, maybe?
Fifth one, maybe.
Yeah. So this one, it looks like he's struggling with something. And
Lois is getting wrinkles.
Well, Lois is now Ms. Bresnahan, who was Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah.
And
That's Lois?
That's Lois.
Really?
Yes.
She's kind of plain for that role, isn't she?
Well,
I don't know.
Anyway, he looks like he's battling this team of evil people and evil other negative superheroes, if you know what I mean. They have, and lots of destruction. There's a part of me that wants to see it a little bit, but I would feel bad about it.
Are you going to break down?
I don't know. I'm going to wait and see. The other one, Fantastic Four, again, another superhero movie with a little attitude, if you will. Anyway, what's interesting about the movie theaters is that, there's more people in them now. Looks like they're coming back, even though, you got a big screen TV in your home. And so you'd think the movie theaters would be making some money this time around, coming back after COVID and all. AMC, however, has figured out that maybe we should show commercials. Before the movies.
Yeah,
Starting last week, moviegoers at AMC theaters will be hit with even more ads before the feature even begins. A new notice has appeared on the AMC website when people go to purchase tickets, warning that movies start 25 to 30 minutes after showtime. The move is a clear play for short-term cash as AMC grapples with nearly $4 billion in debt and a slump in blockbuster content. Unlike ad-supported streaming services where viewers pay less in exchange for commercials, movie ticket prices keep climbing even as attendance drops. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
And they're doing that now on the TV versions. I do a lot of movies on TV, and you have 5 minutes of commercials before your thing starts. By the way, here's a load off, Joey Chestnut reclaimed the mustard belt for a 17th time at Nathan's annual hot dog eating contest.
It was disgusting.
On the 4th of July, it is. He missed last year's competition due to a conflict of interest over a sponsorship with a vegan hot dog brand. A vegan hot dog brand. It didn't work well. So Joey scarfed down a total of 70 and a half hot dogs in 10 minutes.
It was disgusting.
Did not beat his own personal record, though, which he set in 2021 with 76 hot dogs.
Nobody was near him. There was no competition. He's like the Babe Ruth of his day. Just nobody near him.
Yeah, he said, man, I wish I didn't need a couple more. I'm sorry, guys. My goal was 70 to 77. I really wanted a little bit more. I know it's going to keep getting harder and harder to break records. I'll figure it out, unquote. Still won by a landslide, as Mark said. The second place winner, who dominated last year in Joey's absence, only managed to eat 46 and a half hot dogs.
Crazy.
And he ate 70 and a half.
Yes.
So, there you go, ladies and gentlemen.
But, for what it's worth, it didn't make me want to have a hot dog.
No. But they did get the mustard belt, so there's no ketchup belt.
That's exactly
It's a
right.
mustard belt.
That's
so
right.
there again.
And it looked pretty good.
Yeah, and they're recognizing that, that mustard is the main thing that you put on there. By the way, I do want to remind you that this hour is sponsored by Poblano's Tex-Mex Grill out at the 2150 White Street, Suite number 7 in York. It's out there at the Carlisle Commerce Center. You can call for takeout at 717-893-7781. You can find their menu at ToastTab, ToastTab.com. They're open Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if you want some great Tex-Mex food, if you want the taste of, Peru, Mexico, the Spanish taste, the Latin taste that are so good, you cannot do better than Poblano's Tex-Mex Grill. They had a great article written in the New York Daily Record last week about their one-year anniversary, which is coming up on July 17th with free margaritas and more out there at Poblano's Tex-Mex Grill. Pablo Ayala, Laisha are just cooking up a great amount of food out there. They've got the empanadas, which are fantastic, to the chicharron sandwiches, to the birria grilled cheese now, which is unbelievable. Lachelle Rios is the main cook there, and I'll tell you what, she's also making the sweet potato fries with a little salt caramelized in there that are fantastic, plus their fries that have queso sauce on them. And I'm telling you what, you look at the picture of them, you'll be looking at the screen. Poblano's Tex-Mex Grill, the sponsors of this hour here on the Gary Sutton Show. When we come back, Major Joe Decree takes a look at the world through the eyes of a veteran here, next on the Gary Sutton Show on the main street of York.
Over-the-shoulder trick shots at home. $25 a month forever.
I got all these pounds in my closet. He can make it in the pad when I finesse shit. Now the weather's up, it's got me sweating off.
I go walking in my sleep.
How could you not like anything with this guy?
In the middle of
Billy Joel.
River
of Dreams. Don't hear it too often, but
little different sound for him.
He always tried something new and different, so I always respected him for that.
Absolutely, and I think he just one of those guys that just has the ability to be versatile. By the way, this hour of the Gary Sutton Show brought to you by Poblanos Tex-Mex Grill. Michelle Rios and Pablo Ayala are bringing you some of the best Tex-Mex food you're going to find anywhere. Help them to celebrate 1 year in business now. They are making an impact here in the York community by heading on out to 2150 White Street, Suite number 7, right here in York. It's out there at the Carlisle Commerce Center. And you can call out ahead and get takeout, 717-893-7781. Their menu is ToastTab, ToastTab.com. They're open Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I'll tell you what, you'll get met by Michelle Rios' smile when you walk through the door. It'll warm you up. Great place to eat, very comfortable. You can order online when you get in there, and they get it to you very, very quickly. Poblanos Tex-Mex Grill, the sponsor of this hour on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. We bring in this hour Major Joe Decree. He's normally with us in the 8 o'clock hour, but today switched around a little bit because we had some things we had to do, and he graciously accepted our invitation. He is a veteran of Kosovo, Afghanistan, and Iraq. He is a pastor now of a church which talks in the language of veterans. He has been an ROTC instructor. He's been in intelligence at Quantico. He's got an array of things that he has done in his life. But today, he's just a good friend answering the call. And great to have you in this morning, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. What's up?
Well, I just saw where Benjamin Netanyahu just touched down in Washington a little bit this morning ahead of the darkness lifting. And he's going to be meeting today with President Trump about a ceasefire deal that could pause the fighting in Gaza. And he said, we're working together to achieve this deal that's being talked about. He told reporters that before he departed on Sunday, adding that he thought Trump can definitely help advance this outcome, which we all hope for. He thanked Trump for his recent support of Israel during the 12-day war with Iran, calling it a great victory over our common enemy. Relations between the two countries presented a great opportunity to expand this circle of peace in the Middle East. What are your thoughts about this? He's trying to get a deal now with Hamas. I never trusted with these people like Hamas. They're there for one reason, to destroy Israel. And yet, Israel's put a hurting on Iran, and one would think on Hamas and Hezbollah and maybe the Houthis. What's your take on the whole thing?
Symbolic but largely meaningless. Hamas will take the ceasefire deal. They don't really have a choice. And they'll just use it to recruit and rearm and figure out the next attack. I mean, that's just what they do.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can you ever have peace in that region from your vantage point?
Well, never say never, but as long as, there's large groups of people who are dedicated to the absolute destruction of another group of people, no.
Right. And obviously,
that's their whole reason to exist, is to destroy Israel. So as long as that's a factor, and a major factor, no.
You look at 1948 when Israel was first started in that part of the world in terms of a country. They have kicked butt every single time they've been attacked for all intents and purposes, except for the one time we said, please don't. But they make it a point of saying nothing goes unheeded there. I mean, they come back every single time, usually taking some territory, and usually having these countries somehow come back and say, oh, we need that back then, even though we attacked you. I don't get why you would continue to attack this particular country, except that philosophically you just don't agree with them at all. What's your take on all that?
The only viable answer in this matter is in the Bible. I mean, otherwise, nothing. It doesn't make sense. It's just there's this level of evil in the world and this level of hatred for God and the things He stands for, and I really just believe that's all it is. As such, are we ever going to have peace in the Middle East? Probably not. I mean, not for long. It's read the book.
Yeah, no.
It's like you said, there's just this level, and it's generational,
right?
And it gets worse as it goes along. It seems like. I mean, you talk about the first Israeli war was like how many hours after the UN Charter was signed?
Yeah,
literally, right. like the Arab nations were lined up in armored columns on the border, and as soon as they said go, ironically, it was the Israeli Air Force at the time, which consisted of 4 old Nazi fighter planes that beat back. They had 4 Messerschmitt. I think they bought it from Czechoslovakia or something. That beat back the armored column. That made it lasted about 48 hours or something like that, maybe 3 days. And that was the first war of Israel. It was on day one.
We had then 53, 57, 63, 67. It goes on and on. About every 3, 4, 5 years that they try to make an attack in Israel every single time.
Well, and not just, remember the Munich thing in the 72 Olympics? There was that, and then, there have been things all over the world. Yeah, they
killed their Olympic athletes, and of course then Mossad went out and eliminated all those people. So, there's just, they do not let things stand unmet. That's just their mindset, I guess.
Yeah, when did they quit hunting? Nazi officials.
Well,
1970. When? 4, 5, 6.
Well, you remember Adolf Eichmann, the movie about him, and they went out and got him and brought him back to stand trial, and then hung him. And of course, he killed how many Nazis in Europe and Hungary and places like that during the war. So they do not. They're a great example for not standing for someone going after, and yet they stay rooted there in the Middle East and continue to be, I guess, as strong as ever right now.
And here's the thing. There's no strategic point to Israel.
Yeah.
They don't have mineral wealth. There's not an especially super port thing. They're on the east end of the Med. You got ports all over the place. There's no reason. There is no strategic reason to attack Israel. Right. There is nothing to be gained by taking over Israel. Nothing at all.
Yeah, except getting rid of it.
Think about that.
Yeah, except getting rid of it.
Israel won't exist. Yeah, right. And suddenly somehow that's become fashionable or okay. Where 60 years ago, 80 years ago, I guess the world decided, the Jewish people should have a homeland, and now we're like, honestly, I think if the UN could undo that, they would.
When you look at Israel and what they did with Iran, and going in there and just striking them, and now there are different reports coming back saying, well, it might have crippled them for a few years or whatever, and we don't know that for sure. Nobody has any final analysis of that so far, but it's got to be interesting if you are the groups that they support, the proxy groups, that they're now looking around saying, it's kind of like the Wicked Witch of the West. When's a house going to fall on me?
Right.
And the rest of the region was kind of quiet, missing in action, sitting out there going,
I know, right?
Where was the cheerleading squad that we used to have around there? The pom-poms and the cheerleading skirts were put away. Your thoughts on all that?
Well, the region, the very close neighbors have realized the hard way that Israel's here to stay. So Jordan prides themselves on their fence sitting, although they don't like the Israelis. But they also understand that there's some international reasons to get along. We are Jordan is a staunch ally of ours. Well, not ally, I think a coalition partner. It depends on how we define some things, but they are staunchly in favor of the United States, except for the Israeli policy. So we've done a lot of stuff with Jordan, especially in this war on terror. They have been strong supporters and participants, not just passive, but they pony up. Mostly they're special ops guys, because that's what they have in their army that can function well outside of Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been Syria. When's the last time Syria got serious against Israel? Was it the 6 Day War? Was the Yom Kippur War?
Yeah.
It was like the early 70s, right? So even Bashad, as rotten as he was, understood there were significant limitations, and it wasn't worth losing the manpower in the tank.
And of course, he's gone now too. So yeah,
right. Egypt has since, again, about the same time, in fact, Anwar Sadat tried to actually make peace, and he was killed for it by his own people.
Right.
So again, a terrorist group, the Muslim Brotherhood, did that. So you've got 3 of the 6 nations that went against Israel in the 6 Day War. Was it the 67 war?
Yep.
So it was what, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and somebody else all went against Israel. Half of those countries now are at least
tolerant.
Yeah, and Saudi Arabia has, they'll give some lip service to it. But I think our presence in the Middle East has helped calm that down, because you're not going to get U.S. help if you are staunchly anti-Israel.
Well, and in fact, you don't want the U.S. as your enemy either in that situation, because there's so many of those places are doing business with us right now in so many different ways. Yeah.
Right, and Syria's had a horrible time in recent history, and Jordan, like I said, Jordan's thrived, and they've learned they're proud of their fence sitting capabilities, and Egypt is like, hey man, we're just going to reinforce that border, and we don't have to deal with anybody up there, which honestly makes the most sense, from a strategic perspective. We don't like them. We accept that they have to be there. We have a lot of common history. But we're kind of done there. But we'll let it go. And Saudi Arabia is like, it doesn't. There's no strategic interest.
Yeah,
it's just a philosophical thing. Well, we can. There's some practical reasons to not worry about that. So, I think most of the Arab world is kind of, so where they have it is Iran, and of course they've tried to surround Israel. I mean, if you look at, they've tried to surround Israel with, their supranational, hate groups. And
those are the ones that I'm wondering about, because you mentioned about the countries. Now you go to the hate groups, the proxy groups that, Iran was funding with the, Houthis and Hezbollah and Hamas.
They're not strategically oriented. They are just ideologically oriented.
They're just ideologically oriented. And my point was, where do they go now when the mothership that was funding them got beat up pretty badly here recently? Where do they go now? Do they start to get quieter, or do they get more radicalized?
I don't know how you get more radicalized. Yeah. I think what happens is they just look for alternate funding. So there are funding organizations and I forget what it's called. They have a particular banking system in Islam that transcends national borders. That it's like you trade things for like value. So, if I loan you $20,000 and you steal a Mercedes, well, we can make that. We can trade. That's okay. We can do that. So it's that kind of thing. And so that's how a lot of terrorist activities have been funded for decades.
Wow.
So what will they do? They'll lean on that, and then they'll go. Like, my guess is they'll get into the drug trade because that's easy cash. So they'll probably partner up with some cartels, maybe do some joint ops, get some people some live fire experience, because they've lost especially Hamas has lost all their fighters now.
Well, we actually see what Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump talk about today. Joe, great stuff. Thank you so much for the analysis this morning. Regular time next week, my friend. Thank you for being so gracious today. Appreciate it. Have a great week.
Okay, man.
Hey, Major Joe Decree, retired now, here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. It'll be interesting to see what Benjamin Netanyahu and the president talk about today. It's the third time they've met since President Trump took office back in January. We'll take a break. We'll come back with more here on the Gary Sutton Show, 8:48 on WOYK. Mariah Carey in an earlier time.
Dream Lover from 93.
Great song, still played a lot today. Fantastic voice.
Great range.
Yeah, really. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show here on WOYK. It's 8:53 here on a Monday morning. Today at 4 p.m., they're having a sale out at Thomasville Country Auction. That's exactly right. By the way, Jack and Cheryl Hooks want me to remind you that if you want to work part-time or full-time, they've got some openings for you right now at Thomasville Country Auction if you want to be part of a kind of an exciting business, because they do a lot of different things with sales, and whether you're moving, you're downsizing, you have an estate to settle, sales are really kind of interesting. And I in sitting down and talking with Jack and Cheryl, they helped me to understand what sales were really all about. And they are the best at doing this in York County. They really are. They're having a sale today. It's an estate sale where they have records and furniture, jewelry, rugs, a BB gun available, a brown double recliner leather sofa. Mark, how's that for sitting back and watching your games and that?
I was thinking about the Red Ryder 200 shot.
There you go. Mahogany table with 6 chairs, solid oak coffee table with drawers, solid oak 2-piece hutch, a full bed and mattress set, nightstand, chest drawers, tall cupboard, and the BB gun and crossbow. There you go, Mark. Crossbow as well.
Oh.
Portable sink, telescope, all kinds of stuff. Food hydrator and dehydrator, snack trays, vac bags. They've got spritz cookie press. I mean, this is a variety of things, you see. And all you have to do is go to ThomasvilleCountryAuction.com right now, hit auction date, which is today, the 7th of July, and you will see every item that's up for bid this afternoon, so you know what you're going to bid on. That makes some sense, doesn't it? Maybe it's time for you to have a sale. Maybe you have some things to sell. Maybe you have, you're moving. Maybe you're downsizing. Maybe you have an estate to settle, like I did 6 years ago, and I had to go to someone I knew something about it because I didn't know anything. And I went to the natural choice, which is Jack and Cheryl Hooks. Well, they helped me. They came out, they talked to me, and they talked to me in language I understood. And they told me about what to expect at a sale, what not to expect. I was surprised at some of the things that would not sell and some of the things that would. They really surprised me. They are very knowledgeable in this, and they do it from experience. And 40 plus years is that kind of experience. And then they said, hey, how about if we haul the items to your house, their auction house, and then we'll get it on the right kind of sale. In fact, we'll have 4 sales for you. That's what they did. And they made me very, very happy. Jack and Cheryl Hooks have done this job for over 40 years. When it comes to selling your real estate, Cheryl could do that for you and save you lots of money. What are you waiting for? Give them a call today at 717-764-5403 or get on out there this afternoon at 4 p.m. There's a little rain in the forecast, so maybe a good place to be a haven from the rain at the sale by Jack and Cheryl Hooks at 4 o'clock today. Route 30 West at the railroad tracks in Thomasville.
Lots of things to look forward to this week. And, after you probably unplugged over the holiday, but now...
The week ahead. Monday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will visit the White House. Bibi's third trip comes after the U.S. intervened in Israel's war with Iran, attacking Tehran's nuclear sites. Tuesday, a hearing is scheduled to discuss the sentencing schedule for Sean Diddy Combs. The hip-hop mogul was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution and acquitted of the more serious charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. Diddy could face up to 20 years in prison. Wednesday, no more extensions. President Trump's deadline of a 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs comes to an end. A number of countries have already inked deals with the White House, including the UK, Vietnam, and China. Friday, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. Again, the latest film about the Man of Steel flies into theaters. It's the first one written and directed by James Gunn in the DC universe. And that's a look at your week ahead. I'm Tom Graham, Fox News.
And I do want to remind you, this hour has been brought to you by Poblano's Tex-Mex Grill. Hey, I just saw Mark, Milky. Anyway, I just saw where ice cream was considered to be the number one favorite thing to eat during summer. And I saw out at the Poblano's, they have fried ice cream. Yeah, fried ice cream. Have you ever had fried ice cream?
Yes.
And it is really good.
It sounds somewhat ironic.
It does.
They freeze it like a hard ball.
Yep.
And so it's rock hard. And then they put this, I don't know exactly, like coconut or something on the outside.
Well,
and then they deep fat and fry. And that's what gets crispy on the outside. And that's why the ice cream on the inside is.
And yet another thing you can find at Poblano's Tex-Mex Grill, along with fajitas and tacos like Taco Tuesday, burritos, Chicharron sandwich. They now have grilled cheese sandwiches, birria. That's with that special sauce you can dip it in. I mean, they really do it well. Now, they don't accept reservations. They like when you stop on by. Plenty of room inside there. They're open 11 to 8 every Monday through Saturday, 11 to 8. You can stop on in and see Pablo Ayala and Lachelle Rios. They are fiancés, and they are cooking it up out there right now. And just ask about whatever it is you want to ask about as far as the type of food they make. But they are available for takeout at 717-893-7781. You can find their menu at toasttab.com. That's TOASTTAB.com. 2150 White Street in York, suite number 7, Poblano's Tex-Mex Grill. Check them out today.
Final story. We're always looking for how exactly is AI going to impact our world? And it's in big and small ways. And here's a small way.
A team of researchers in the U.S., China, Sweden, and Singapore say they've been using artificial intelligence to develop new formulas for paints and coatings that can reflect and deflect summer heat. The scientists, including some working at the University of Texas in Austin, found that when applying this AI-created paint to the roof of an apartment building, it saved nearly 16,000 kilowatt hours of electricity in climates with hot summers, such as in Bangkok. And the more often this type of paint is used in adjacent city blocks, it could save enough electricity to power 10,000 AC units. Eben Brown, Fox News.
And finally, coming up tomorrow here, we're going to have James Sanders in. We'll have Eugenia Pasquale. We're going to have Jamie Norpal, our DA, Tim Barker, and much more. We'll keep our eye on that meeting between President Netanyahu and President Trump today. Have a great day, everyone. Be safe. I'm Gary Sutton. It's 9 o'clock.